How you doing?
Yeah, how are you?
I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm excited to have you on here tonight. How you doing?
Doing good. I'm excited too. I'm so excited.
Well, I know we got people still chiming in, but we'll go ahead and start. Life After Sports podcast with Kevin Johnson. Tonight, the theme is called The Journey Part 2. And we have a special guest, Vella Ellerbe. She's a certified holistic coach and a postpartum doula. And you know, you're gonna have to explain that a little bit in detail. I know I'm not the only person that want to know more about it, but I'm
Yeah.
excited to have you on here tonight.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. And before we jump into it, I just want to say thank you for the work. And I think it's important. Some of my family and I, after you and Dannell's call, we sat down and just talked about how beneficial it is to have a place like this and what it would have been like for all the guys that have already come through to have this platform. So thank you.
Thank you. Look, you know what? To be honest, I didn't give an intro on why I started Life After Sports podcast, how it all came about, but it was January. And January it was a Super Bowl event, and I put together a Super Bowl event with Remy Martin. And the vision was to pitch the idea to some former players. And so I was like, you know, what do you guys think? It was a small kind of gathering. Everybody was like, we love the idea. We love it. I just didn't know when I was going to go ahead and jump into it. Well, this whole coronavirus thing, I was like, look, I got plenty of time to sit down, jump in, and dive into it. And every week, it's been great conversations with great people. I've been getting a lot of great, comments back from the YouTube and the Apple podcast, and people just saying, look, man, we appreciate the content, and we love every week you have somebody different on here. Now, I got to tell you this. So I had a lot of people, yo, when are you going to get a woman on there? Like, what's going on? Like, it's all male dominant. I said, look, it's coming. Be patient.
Yes, and I'm here. She has arrived.
She has arrived.
Honored to be the first female to grace your podcast. You know, it's really important, I think, to hear all perspectives, and I agree with everybody, you know, on that. And being so, I would not be my uber duper self if I did not ask if we could set some intentions before we dove on even deeper, if that's okay with you, coach to coach. Is that all right?
No, that's all right. That is all right. That is all right. I mean, after having the session or an interview session with your husband last week Friday, I said, this is the perfect time and the perfect person, and I love y'all relationship. So I'm like, look, it's the right time and the right person to have on here. And so with that being said, this is episode 13. And for those who are tuning in, we appreciate you. Support. Follow us on Life After Sports podcast on YouTube. We have an Apple podcast. Go follow it and subscribe and support. And I'm just happy. I'm happy. I was a little bit, I've interviewed 12 people already. And I wasn't feeling like, like a little like fuzzy. I said, I'm feeling good about this interview tonight.
That's why I said let's set some intentions. So for airport, let this be for the highest good, for you, for me, for everybody that's watching, that's involved. May they take away everything they need and leave what they don't. I hope it resonates. I really do. I'm excited. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's jump into it. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, where were you born? Where you and where you were raised?
So funny enough, I was born and raised in Ellerbe, North Carolina. I know. And then there's this annoying joke that he tells everybody that I own her town, you know. Born in Ellerbe, North Carolina. My mom is Sheila and my dad is Raz. And so that's a dynamic duo right there, them two.
Okay. You have any other siblings, or is it just you?
No, I have 2 older sisters. I have an older brother and 2 younger brothers.
Okay. So talk a little bit about your childhood. Like, what did you aspire to be? And I know it's probably like a lengthy question that people ask, but I know as young adults or young children, we have aspirations in life. Yeah. And so as we get older, we forget them. Like, nobody thinks about them. They don't really talk about it that much. But when you were growing up as a child, what was your give me a little bit about what you aspire to be.
Yeah, so dance was my first love. I wanted to dance. I wanted to be a dancer. That's all I thought about. That's all I talked about. I was on the cheerleading squad in high school because we didn't have like a legit dance team, just to do routines. I was full blown in it. And from there, you know, I started doing like Zumba and things like that to fulfill that and feed that passion, because I didn't go on to be a dancer, but that was my. If you ask anybody, my mom will tell you I was always stomping and clapping and jumping and twisting and turning somewhere. Yeah.
Okay. Now, I know you mentioned your parents. What was the most valuable lesson that you've learned from your parents and something that you hold so dear to your heart today?
Man, so I have two totally different lessons from both of them, and I carry them with me everywhere I go. So my mom had this thing about calling us out, me, all of my sisters and brothers, that was fake, or she knew that we were putting on for somebody or something else. She would sit and she'd be like, oh no, like don't put on, don't do that, be yourself, be authentic. You know, she was always on us. So we had friends over, and this is how she broke us as children. Like it seems like harsh now, but later in life I appreciate it. I could be doing something, telling the story, be lying. You know how you do when you're younger, doing whatever, and she would come in. She's the queen of fake. There is none higher. The sucker fake girl. We
Hey,
higher. Like sing songs to my friends about how fake I was, right? And so she done it to me and my sister, and we laugh about it now. I was talking about it to her a couple of days ago, and we laugh about it now. But being able to be true in myself and who I am, no matter where I am or what that looks like, always bringing all of me to the room, definitely is what my mom taught me. And my dad taught me to just go for it and get it. And like, you have to bring you to the table. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's other people that have what they can do and do. Like my husband is dynamic at what he does, but what can you do? Like, that's all thing, you know, making sure that you use all of you everywhere you go. And so he just taught us to just be and show up and work for it and do it and pull it out the gutter, you know, that type of way. That was my
yeah.
dad.
Well, I mean, it's so interesting that you talk about that in regards to dynamics of our parents. You know, I look back now. You know, my parents still married. They've been married for 37 years, and I'm looking back, and I'm the lessons that they taught me when I was younger, and I'm like, I didn't get that growing up. Like, I didn't understand where they were trying to maneuver and teach me as I became an adult. Now I look back and I'm like, wow, like I really truly am grateful on how you guys raised me, because now you've kind of set me up for success in this world that we're living in today, which is so much full of hate, crime, all different type of things. And then you go back on the principles that was raised, or principles that you were raised on. And
Yeah.
so it's just a, crazy dynamic, because when you're growing up, you're like, man, I'm never going to be that parent. Like, I'm not going to do that to my kids. Then
Yeah.
you get your kids, and
Yeah.
you could talk about that. Like, what type of parent are you now?
I'm definitely that parent. First of all, I'm like a helicopter parent. That I don't mean to be. I never thought I would be that, but that's my truth. I am. And 110% completely agree about not thinking that you're going to be like the exact same way your parents were, you know, thinking, oh my God. But then like I said, I'm so appreciative of it now. But me, in our dynamics, I am definitely one of the, I'm not going to say stern, but like more disciplined, like more structure. I'm very OCD to the point I'm like, okay, we're going to do this. Your bedtime is what? Because if not, you're going to be sleepy tomorrow, right? And we just balance each other out in a great way that way. Yeah.
Look, while growing up, I got to share this story. So in regards to parenting. So my mom, like, I would go to my mom and say, hey, Mom, can I go ahead and do this? She'll say, yeah, go ask your dad. Then I'll go to my dad like, Dad, can I go do this? Go ask your mom. I'll be like, yo. You, Dad, you the man. You set the boundaries. You say yes or no. Why do I have to go and ask Mom? And from that moment, I told myself at that young age, I would never do this to my kids. But when I have kids, that's exactly what I'm about to do.
Yeah. We do it already. My mom did this thing, and we already do it. But
Wow.
one thing I started doing was talking about, like, already I have a 3 and a 6-year-old, and already we have to discuss like what we said. Mama, can I play my game? During the week, it's a no, right?
Yeah.
No, you can't play. Well, Daddy said already. I'm like, he's like, no, I ain't say that. Like, oh, see, we gotta keep an
Hey,
eye.
that's why I gotta keep an eye on that one, and you gotta be in one accord.
Have to be on one accord for sure.
Oh man, so talking about, look, you gave us a little bit about, and I like to do it in different phases: pre-career, in career, post-career. And so you talked a little bit about growing up in North Carolina, and now let's dive in a little bit about your career, your journey. What was your plan after college? And first of all, tell me what college you went to. Give me the nitty gritty.
Please, I went to a HBCU. I went to State University. Yeah, my Ram fam. Hey y'all. And after that, I went in, honestly, I went in not knowing what I wanted to do into college because dance was all that was on my brain. But I knew I liked rehabilitation because I was in allied health and I saw like occupational therapists and physical therapists. And so I decided I wanted to go into school for physical therapy. Hardcore decided on it by the end of the freshman year. And so that was my plan, is I was going to graduate undergrad, go back. But while I was in undergrad, it was only 2 years to become a physical therapist. And they added on the other 2 and it was 4. And by the time I made this my senior year, I was like, I got to come up with another plan because that's not it, you know. Post college, I got out and I started working at the YMCA in Baltimore and Pikesville.
Okay.
I taught a lot of children programs. And I had a really cool director. He allowed me to create programs and sit with him and learn the dynamics and structures of the gym facility. So I really appreciate it. Yeah.
Looking back now, you know, what do you think about like being able to volunteer while you're in college, and how, you know, sometimes in our mind, you know, we graduate from college, we may be in loans, maybe over 100,000, and then our first thing is like, I want that job right away without putting in that time, understanding volunteer, understanding how to get paid internships, non-paid internships, because sometimes the non-paid allows you to know, hey, I don't really like that career. I don't want to really be in that. I thought that that's where I wanted to navigate, but that's not really where I want to be. So, I mean, talk about the importance of volunteering and on that spectrum and kind of giving you a clear definition of what exactly you want.
Yeah, that's really important. Like you said, it allows for you to see the field in depth. Like you're in it. When you're there, you're being the intern, you're able to see what you like about it and what you don't. And I'm really glad I done that. I love lived examples. What I realized about physical therapy is that if I was to become a physical therapist, I only wanted to help rehab athletes. Why? Because they have this drive to get back to something. Where when I would watch the elderly and older people come in, they would be complaining. You know, they didn't really want to be there. The younger kids would cry, you know, and stuff. And so it just allows you to see the feel for what it fully is, and then you won't be so committed to something if you don't really like it. So that's very important to do. Yeah.
So, you know, I was going to ask this question. So when did you meet your husband? Like, how did y'all meet? You know, give me a little tea. How did y'all meet? When did y'all meet? How did this transition, you know, when did it occur?
Okay, so I was 17 years old, working at Foot Locker in Rockingham, North Carolina, Richmond County. Yep.
Okay.
And I came into Foot Locker, and I'm laughing because every time I tell this story, normally he's able to bust in, but he can't bust in. So this is my version. So
He's trying to bust it on the comments below, but just ignore him. Keep going.
I'm ignoring it. I actually have something I can't even see all of it.
Okay.
And so yeah, he came into Foot Locker. And he was with someone. And so he was with another girl, which was his friend at the time. But of course, I didn't know this. So I didn't pay him any attention. And then he came back again the second, so like a couple of weeks later. And he was stalking me for a little bit. And then finally, this joker pulled in at a gas station in our hometown. Like, yo, I've been trying to get in touch with you. And I actually went to school with his sister, but I just didn't have a brother. And then we did it that way.
So that's how y'all met.
Yep.
Wow, that's how you met. And somebody said stalker. I'm not gonna say any more about these comments. They get a little ruthless in here. But so at 17, that's when y'all met. Mm-hmm. So, you know, so talk to me about the sacrifices. I think a lot of times, before I even get into that question, a lot of times people truly don't understand that it takes a village to raise a kid, to raise a family, to raise a man. It's just a whole household. It takes a whole component. And so with that being said, a lot of times, and just because for the show, it's called Life After Sports, we have a lot of athletes who, you know, their transition from playing into their post-career is totally different. But they really truly don't talk about the relationships that they had prior to becoming that player or that star playing in that particular, you know, career or sport. They never talk about that significant other that was stronghold and helping them and supporting them when they didn't have nothing, and then they became something, or they were all, in my mind, you were always something. Now your job now aligns with what you're doing in your career, so that title, you're like, man, I made it. And sometimes nobody really gives praise to the person who supported them from way back when they were that person or that caliber person in regards to that particular career. Because eventually that career is going to be over, and then you come back. You know, it's like a high. It's like a little drug. You go high, come back low, and then now you're humble. Now it's back to the regular beginnings in regards to how we, how this transition. So my question is, talk about the sacrifices that you had to make for your family regarding your career. Because yeah, we talked about your husband's career last week. Now I want to talk about your career. What was those sacrifices? Because they don't normally hear that, and I want to hear it.
Yeah. Thank you for asking. So first, I just want to say, I feel like with the whole dynamic, if my husband hadn't been who he is and been the type of person he is, it would have felt like I was losing something. Mm-hmm. Like, I felt like I wasn't able to fully stand up and be who I was as a person, right? Because I have talked about this a lot before in the past. But with my particular experience, what it felt like was, because we always had this game plan, and knowing that NFL is not for long, NFL. Mm-hmm. Ever. Our game plan is always the end thing, to where he's doing what he's going to be doing right now. That is going to allow me to have a fuller, longer version of what I want to do later, right? It's kind of setting the stage for our lives, right? And so the way I always looked at it was, right now in this day, in the state that we were in, is I'm supporting him fully, right? So that he can come back and support me fully. Now, that does not take away from the fact that when it's time to move, like when you talk about sacrifices, he is the one that's going to the facility. He has to be there. We moved around a lot. Yeah. Last time moving, when we moved from Philadelphia back here to Florida, was his first time participating in the move. So I had at one point 2 kids, moving an entire home, because we would go to out apartments because we had babies and dogs and everything. So all he would do is walk in and everything would be set up, and it never dawned on him like, oh shit, like how does this stuff happen? Like, this is not, and it really understand that process until he had to go through with me one time before. So it's those little things like that, having the load of the babies and done at home. And so no, you can't have a full force thing that you're doing. And that's how I actually got into coaching, is because I can coach from anywhere. I can do it at any time. I can make my own schedule. But that kind of took a minute to evolve into it even dawning on me that is something that I was doing, unknowingly doing. So it really was something that I had to sit down, like, think about, you know what I mean? So that I didn't have the luxury, I'm not going to say the luxury, but I didn't have the space and opportunity to just navigate through time. But I feel to roll over into a whole nother thing to say is that happened in just the way it was supposed to, because had I had the clientele that I needed, that I thought I should have 6 years ago, I wouldn't be ready, because I'm not the same person that I am now, right? I had the experience of saying, hey, I know the pressures of to be basically, and definitely not to say a single parent home, because that's not what it was, but a lot of the times it's what it felt like, because I was doing it by myself because he had to go to work. That was the end of his job,
Yeah. And talking about the sacrifice, but knowing that you guys had a plan, I think that is so important. A lot of people, when you don't have a plan, you fail. When you have a plan, there's some structure in place. You can at least maneuver. Things may change along the way throughout the journey, but at least you have your eyes set on something. And I think we know that because we're, in regards to coaches, we know I cannot diagnose. I cannot answer questions if there's no end result or there's no end goal or what we're trying to achieve.
Right.
So I think that is just so important. Talk about how you handled the transition process of your husband's retirement, because that's different. And then how did it impact you as well?
Yeah, so for me, in all honesty, I was excited. I was home and to be settled, because you got to think, I've been sharing my husband with other people in the world since we were in college. I didn't know anything else. And so now to be here, I'm loving it. I'm eating it completely up. But my preparation and my thought was always, like he expressed last week, he wasn't slowing down to think about post NFL, right? He was thinking, I'll do that when I get there. So all I could think about was there coming this abrupt stop, and all these things that are happening, and kind of like he put words to how it was so fast and then it was just nothing. And that's all I thought about. What is it going to be like when it's just silent? You have a person who's literally been going to a practice since Pop Warner to not anything. Like when you really start to think about it. So everything I did was auditioning to talk to him. So he wasn't talking to other people, but I was talking to other wives whose husbands had already retired to kind of see what's the temperature over there, like what's happening, you know, what's going on. And so that's where I spent a lot of my time. And I would bring the conversation up, you know, before it was time, like, hey, you know, even if it was a no every time, I'm still planting those seeds of like, hey, you know, we here, you know, we got to talk about it. And so that's pretty much how I prep. The transition for my kids, they love having their dad around, like literally to the point my 3-year-old, if he goes to the store, he's like, where you going? You know, he wants to know, you know. And so it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful transition. Did it have its ups and downs? Yeah, because you think of a person getting used to a new normal that has never really been their normal, you know what I mean?
Correct. Like what we experiencing now when you
Yeah.
really think about it.
Yes. Yeah. Just learning to adjust.
Yeah. So I mean, and the crazy thing is that and I shouldn't even say crazy. The thing is, with life, there's always adjustments along the way.
Always.
So in our career, and our motto for this show is all about when one career ends, this is where a whole bunch of opportunities begin.
Yeah.
A whole new set of opportunities begin. So in life, I think that's just a transition in our lives. And I think sometimes as human beings, we want to know the next step every step of the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes that's not life. We can have those things written, but it may not go exactly like that. And you got to figure out how to maneuver. And so, like, I'm pretty sure with every relationship, with every adjustment, there's always the highs and lows. It's how you balance each other out and how you're able to help each other along the way. Talking about, so we talked about the transition. You talked about the impact. Do you think, and because I want you to talk about, you know, the birth of your two kids, do you think that men overlook what women really go through in childbirth?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't think, and I say that so certainly, but I don't mean it in a way that's negative. I just think that there hasn't been, unless you're intentional about it, there hasn't been the extra learning or the attention or the awareness around the subject. Like my dad is 74 years old, and I talk to him about it all the time. We grew up in the South. When he was younger, they put them out in a way, like, go, you know, when a woman is giving birth, they sent them off. So it wasn't like, but the only reason they done that is because the women were coming in, you know what I mean? So yeah, I do that men, unless they are consciously their intention to be more focused in, then it gets overlooked.
Yeah. And do you think it has to do a little bit more? You gave me the history a bit of what it used to be with your dad.
Yeah.
But do you think now, with how society is, that we as men, we could be a little bit more educated on the process, on women's body and what you guys are desiring, what you guys want from us, and the hormones and the acts and the requests is all the way bouncing off the walls, but how to be able to communicate with you all throughout this process?
Absolutely, but again, where everybody is human, you guys aren't mind readers, right? So we have, as women, as reproductive bodies, let me say it that way, we have to be able to say, you know, this is what I need. I need this from you. This will support me. And a lot of the times, in many cases, we have not had, even as women and as reproductive bodies, I will keep saying that, as the people who are birthing the babies, we have to be able to have that language for our partners to say, hey, you know, this is what I need from you. But a lot of the times that's not the case. We have trouble asking for what it is that we need. And I speak from that place of experience and, you know, experience and observation in the work that I do.
Yeah. Well, without going, well, look, I want you to be authentic. So you tell me how you feel or how you would want to answer this question. How was your husband throughout the process? Like with the whole childbirth, like, did you have to, like, babe, this is what I truly need, I know the time, or you got this going on? Because when you had your firstborn, he was still playing in the league, correct?
Yes. And we are a great example of what I was just talking about. So my husband was there. He was available. he didn't know what I needed. I didn't know what I needed. You know, my parents lived so far away. Through when I was pregnant, my pregnancy was cakewalk. We had it. I was like, oh, we got this. We ordering stuff. We getting a nursery together. We getting it ready. Beautiful. But then when the baby came, because of who I am as a person, right? I'm very headstrong, I'm the person that everybody calls when they need, you know, this, or I'm the family organizer of the cookouts. You know, I'm all over doing all the things. I didn't want to lay some stuff down in order to take on the role of motherhood, and I didn't understand. So me not understanding that left for a lot of room of error, a lot of miscommunication, a lot of just, you know, just the muck. And so that for me is why I'm so passionate about expressing how important it is to know, you know, before you get into motherhood. There are certain things you're not going to know experience until you get there, in parenthood until you get there. But if you can get that pure, clean communication, or at least attempting to be in communication and have clear communication with each other, then it just makes for an easier transition, because you know how to ask for what you need, you know how to set boundaries, you know how to do all these other things. Where if you don't know how to do that and you're bringing another person, another being into the mix, then, you know, it just leaves a lot of room for error. Gonna have it, but unnecessarily. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I agree with you in regards to that, the communication. And I asked this question, and it's not really has nothing to do with sports related, or if you're in the league and you're a wife of a player. This is just a general question. Why sometimes, and maybe media can put a twist on it, that when the woman is pregnant at most times, and it's just it's just so new that I don't know. I don't know it because I don't have any kids. I'm not married. But when the transition from it just being you and your husband, and then now it's a child. Now being able to I wonder, because I have a lot of friends who got married or who has a child with someone, and it's been like a discommunication, like not a good communication when the child is born. And you would think, no, this is the time we need a lot of communication. We need to know everything about how we want to communicate and how we want to raise this child together. And yes, I know we're going to have to figure this out. But do you think that there's like a lot of missing things when those relationships turn and dissolve and go the other way because of the lack of communication?
I think a baby enhances what was already there, and a lot of room, be it, and I mean that on every level. I mean the trauma that you've already experienced with the female body is, if you can picture in your mind like a container, it's like taking the container off. You know what I mean? It's like taking the container and all your shit just comes up. You know, have the things that have happened to you that are resurfacing because things that happened to you when you were younger, and now you're thinking about not wanting them to happen when you have children. I mean, all of those things. And so it's really important to start for the baby. I'm an advocate for that. I'm saying do the work before the baby gets here. And if you are a person, that's why I created the group Mamas Who Breathe. Right now we're just having the monthly meetups where we just talk about what we're dealing with and with meditation. But foresight, what's going to start happening is having those conversations around how to have hard conversations with your mate, how to groom yourself to become a partner to another person. Because think about it, if you don't really know who you are, how can you then extend yourself to someone else? You know what I mean? How can you extend yourself to raise someone else? It's done, but in survival mode. And when you switch over into that survival primitive state of just getting it done, you kind of turn off everything else. You know what I mean?
No, it does. It makes sense. It makes sense. And as a man, we don't know we really would never understand what the woman's body goes through in a pregnancy. We really don't. Because when you look at it, the dynamics, you go through, your body was this way, then 9 months, then you have the baby, and then now you're thinking about, my body needs to get back to this size. You know, I love my child, but nobody loves me no more. My husband loves the child more than he loves me. My parents ask about the child more than they ask about me. And so talk about how, like, the development of postpartum. Did I say the word correctly?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, like talk about how that develops, and I just want to know, because I think there's viewers that are on here that would love to know, like, how can I be able to, as a male, be able to help my partner through this?
So that's I'm glad you asked that, because that's really important. So I want to make a distinction between two things. So postpartum is something that every mother goes through. It's just like the fourth trimester. It's just the part of having a baby and birthing a baby. I think that when we start talking about postpartum depression is when one has gone into a depressive state because of the lack of the support in the postpartum time, right? So number one, how to not go into that state is to be fully supported. And it doesn't matter. Space is not the answer. Like, it may feel like she wants you to just go away, oh no, but just give grace to the fact that that's her first time being there. She's learning language to navigate that space. You guys are learning collectively how to take care of this new human, you know. And so just being gentle with both of you. But again, and I hope I'm answering the question, but going back to like making sure that those foundational things are done. What helped us a lot was taking classes, and I didn't even know to do this. I was just a researching freak at the time. Is taking those classes gives you both information. And when I say taking those classes, like lactation classes, they have like baby readiness classes, and they're free at the hospital depending on what hospital you go to, and you get to learn some of the things to where you're not trying to just, you know, mindlessly feel through space with each other. You know what I mean? It's a foundation. Did I answer your question?
You did, but you totally did. I think just the education of it, like you said you started going to classes. And did Dannell did he go with you to those classes?
And doing those things collectively together, bringing your partner into picking out the nursery, you know, letting them have say so, and collectively, when I say partner, both of you guys coming in, letting them have a say so on what the baby is gonna, you know, what the sheets are gonna look like, stuff to build the bond, so that it's not, this is my baby. And that because I had a hard time even with my language in the beginning of, you could see my mind and you could see my state of mind, because I would be like, yeah, my son. I probably said it because it was a really bad habit. Or my baby, you know. And even I'll be like, don't you do that to my baby. But really, at the end of the day, that's how I felt. Like, no, like, and just for the sake of that example, perfect story. My son broke his arm on the 2nd, and I told you.
Yeah.
And when my husband took him, and he don't even know this, I fell apart. I was like losing control, malfunction, like, and then I had to really gather myself, because that's one of my areas, you know, that parent. I said, that's his father. Like, if anything, it's better that he took him, because my baby didn't whimper, he didn't whine. He broke his arm. He got into the thing, he didn't whimper, he didn't whine. He got what he needed to get. He came back. And as soon as he got back to me, you know, my husband, he started whimpering and whining. You know, my husband told me he didn't do that at all. Have those, you know what I'm saying? So we have those different dynamics. You know, that we bring, that is so beautiful when we can work together to bring it together. Yeah.
Man, it's crazy that your son was with him, didn't cry. Saw mom was like, broke down. Mom.
He said, I'm so sleepy. I said, you can go to bed, you know.
Oh, so talking now, we're going to go a little bit about post career right now. And what was the driving force that propelled you to be a certified holistic coach, as well as postpartum doula? And then if you can explain as well.
Yeah. So in coach, I'm a habit change, right? And I was doing that anyway. I was like helping people work through their stuff, especially at the beginning. It was all health related. So we're talking weight loss, encouraging people that they can do the things that they're saying they're doing. I'm just that friend. Like, if you want a cheerleader, call me because I'm from 1 to 0 to 10, you know, and because I truly believe that we don't see ourselves, right? So that was always the biggest thing. And so one day my sister called me, and she's like, hey, I just heard this thing called a health coach. That's what you do. I was like, I'm not a health coach. Well, you know, and so when I looked into it, I was like, this is what I do. Like, this is what I thing. And so I started looking at it, and the way I decided that I wanted to do the holistic approach is because I truly believe that all of us, you need to work on all. You know, that's why we have this thing Friday, we call it Fill It Up Friday, and we talk about, have you checked on your spiritual hygiene, your physical hygiene, your mental, all of those parts of you, taking and tending to those things are super important. And then with postpartum doula, because the coldest, obviously I've been talking about it so passionately tonight, that was the coldest part of my pregnancy. That's where I needed the most support. And I feel like in today's society, have all these things from mama, right? We support them. We have baby showers, you know, have all these things, and then as soon as the baby gets here, it's like, okay, girl, come later. You know what I'm saying? And that's it. You drop the mama off, you drop the baby off, and you're gone. And for the people who are blessed, you know, they have support systems and mamas and grandmas and aunties and aunts and daddies and whoever that comes in, and they still support them, you know. But for most of the time, that's not the reality. But they're far away from their parents, or they just automatically have this sense of, I've done all the things I need to do. Now I'm going to give her baby this intimate time, when really that's the most vulnerable time of all. And then when you think about the people who don't have family around, or just who don't have other family, that leaves them to navigate that space. And so right now, class called Innate Traditions. I've taken this my second time taking it. I love Miss Rochelle because of reclaiming the postpartum phase, and that is, I'm all hands on, toes on, everything, you know, to take part in that work. So that's how.
Look, I'm gonna have to, before this is over. Well, I'm gonna call you afterwards, but I have to give you my sister's information so you can be able to help her. She needs you.
Oh yeah.
She's pregnant with fraternal twins right now. Mm-hmm. She's gonna get mad at me because I'm talking on live about it, but I don't care. So she has a 2-year-old, and she's pregnant with fraternal twins, so she's due next month. She's gonna need some help. She's gonna need some help, you know, just to help her through the process.
Congratulations. That's
Thank you. So talk a little bit about the health effects, because your husband spoke about it on the show that we had. He talked about, you know, him leaving football when football was done, that you were like a mental coach for him.
Yeah.
And so talk a little bit about the health effects that what happens to players, you know, in retirement or after they're not playing anymore, and the different, and it could be trauma, or it could just be the things that they mind just space out and goes into different places, because the sport that they've been playing for so long was what they guaranteed or thought in their life they'll be doing for 10 to 20 years or whatever the case is. And then having the sense of reality that, hey, you know, it's not going to be for long. How were you able to, you know, what was those conversations with you and him in regards to that, and how he was able to mention and say, hey, my wife was my coach. She was my supporter. She was my everything. I couldn't do it without her. So talk about that.
For us, and in our situation, what we done was we made sure that he was, first of all, taking care of his body.
Yeah.
The gut brain connection is so important, first and foremost. So we went on a lot of different cleanses together, right? So we made sure that his body was okay first.
Yeah.
And then we went into things like making sure we just get outside. Like literally, it may sound so simple, but it's those small little things. In my we have a paradigm that we say that small hinges swing big doors, right? And it's those small little things, making sure he got outside every day, even if he didn't realize why we were going outside every single day to play with the kids. You know what I'm saying? Making sure that we're cleansing our bodies. We flood our bodies every day. We take something that's called Juice Plus. It gives you all the fruits and vegetables. It fills in the gaps, right? So you're eating really well, but then you're not us every single day by way of pomegranate or something like that, or, you know, the algae, you know. So you're taking that and making sure you fill the gaps within your body. And then also just making sure we've done things like meditation. So like I talked for like all those different hygienes, have you done all the levels of things, right? And we made sure I those things every single day, you know. And that's something that we still, to where we were able to bring our kids into it, you know, and just asking him all the time, like, how are you? And asking him to please be honest. If he wasn't okay, he would just be like, you know, and just what it was. And I gave him grace. I think that was the biggest thing, that I never made him feel like, and this is maybe he has a different, but it was important to me to never make him feel like I needed him to be anything other than what he really was. Like, hey, not to feel like yourself, because you're still really trying to figure out this new space. Like, how do you fit in? Where's your role? What does that look like? And that's, you know, and I could really relate to that, because having a baby, and like you mentioned, the body change and all that, and you're trying to really figure out, okay, now what does this mean? You know, you're birthed into a new normal. Yeah.
I mean, I think that's so important. I mean, you said something so profound. You talked about, I allowed him to be himself. I wanted him to be true with how he felt and how he in that space that he was in, how he personally felt in that particular space. You didn't try to navigate, hey, this is how you should feel because we're living a great life, or this, that, and that. You allowed him to say, man, if you're just having a bad day and it's just one of those days, let's talk about it. If you want to talk about it, you allowed him to be himself as long as he was communicating with you. And I mean, I think that's important.
Yeah. Yeah. That, and for me, and you said something that made me be like, but I also let him have that moment and be where he was, but I never let him stay there. You know, stay there. I never let him stay there too long. And he didn't go to the, and when I stay there and have those moments, I'm meaning like just having uncertainty, not understanding like what's that, well, what the hell am I gonna do? Like I can't, like he said last week, I'm not just about to sit on this couch, and coaching him up in a way and saying, bro, like you could go do whatever you want to do right now. Like you lose so much weight. And I know, like I tell him now,
What you told him?
your name holds so much,
absolutely.
Of your name to go slap it down and do whatever you want to do. See if that's what you want. You don't want to do that, go pick it up. You have that luxury to go and figure out what it is. And I always picked at him and told him, I'm gonna teach you how to live civilian life. Don't worry about it. I'm gonna teach you.
It's so funny. So there was I was on a flight, and true story, I was on a flight and I was telling somebody about my podcast, one of the flight attendants, and I mentioned your husband's name, and I didn't know she was in the military for umpteen years, and she's from North Carolina. So she said, "Oh no, I know exactly that name." And when he comes and gives back to the community every year, and we truly appreciate that. And I said, "Well, when I get on the show, I'm gonna let his wife know that because she's from North Carolina. She was like born and raised, and so we were just having a conversation. She said, "Oh, I'm." He was always giving back to the community, and so you never know who's who's paying attention to you.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened.
Me either. I was like, oh no. But I heard the story of flight attendant. You were saying, yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you.
No, absolutely. You never know. You never know who knows the work that you're doing in the community. You never know. And then when you have an opportunity and somebody hears the name, you don't know what rings the bell. So I was glad to hear that. I was like, well, I'm glad that I interviewed him. So my next question, before we wrap up, I was going to ask you, so what advice would you give women, other women who significant others are professional athletes and they're trying to find their purpose in their own life? I think that is so, because sometimes you can you're behind your husband, but you don't feel like you're an individual.
Yeah.
And you lose a sense of your individuality. And so what would you speak to that?
I would say exactly what you're kind of speaking on is that you have to remember that you are individual. Like you can support your husband and also make them acknowledge you by name when you come into the room. Like that was one of my things that kept me, because if you don't, and let me fully explain what I'm saying, because you will go to different places and you will find yourself in rooms and they'll just say, oh, that's Dannell's wife. Hey, my name is Vella Ellerbe. How are you? Vella, whatever, making sure that you know. And that was one of the ways that I constantly do. I can fully, like I was talking about earlier, showed up in the room. You know what I mean? So making sure that you understand that you are individual first, but also holding true to all those aspirations and all those passions and all those things that you had. You can support your spouse and also have different interests. You can, so that was really important for me, to hold on to who I am and understand that everything may not always fit into the frame of what's happening, but I still have my own picture over here, right? So I still have my own entire painting. Like it doesn't have to all mesh together. You know what I mean? Yeah. And always just hold true to yourself in that way.
No, that's important, because I'm pretty sure people who are listening from that's going to be watching on YouTube and the Apple Podcasts, they want to know that, like, what do I do in that element? And I think it's important, trying to still find a little piece of who you are, find your individuality, be happy with who you are, and never doubt yourself in regards to that.
Yeah, and I just want to speak to the fact that if your partner is not someone, because if your partner is not someone who acknowledges you as an individual who stands on your own, and has your own interests and things like that, maybe bring that to their awareness that that's what you're feeling too, because it's kind of hard to do that if they're not in support of you doing that. Like my husband will always, and I would love to say that because of what I said before, because he saw that was something I was doing. If they were just like, oh, is that your wife? He will always introduce me by name, because just the type of industry it is and the way it happens, you do just get washed over. But if that your mate respects you and he's gonna, then the respect is around. It's not just, oh, she's, you know what I mean? Type.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, she just over there in the corner.
Yeah.
No, she is somebody. She's a
Yeah.
queen. She's my queen.
Exactly.
Well, my next question to you is, what advice would you give women who are dealing with postpartum? And I know you talked about it, but what advice would you give to women who are that are dealing with it? And I know you broke it down to differentiation from the depression of it, and every woman goes through postpartum. But for those who are seeking help, what recommendations would you have that could be able to be of essence to them?
Yeah. So the first thing that came up when you said that is knowing that it's okay to need help. That's the first thing. Letting that wash you over. And then talking to someone that you trust. If you don't have anyone that's in your immediate corner, being honest with your OBGYN when you go and talk to them when they ask you the feelings and stuff that you're dealing with. Because they have a lot of resources, but if you don't speak up, if you don't say what you're feeling, then nobody can help you. And that
Yeah.
stuff thing is something that can turn for the worst really quickly.
Yeah.
So I'm always open. My information is here. If you find yourself wanting to be prepared to not, because I'm the more of the prevention spectrum versus the actual, because once it's postpartum depression, it's a whole different thing. So just take care of yourself,
Yeah.
and know that you're not the first person and you're not the last person, and that you're not alone. And so please, please be honest.
That's what's up. That's what's up. Can you tell people where they can be able to get your information, find you, Instagram, where your services are provided, so that they can be able to go and find you?
Yeah, so my website is www.evolvewithvella.com, just like the handle. I'm on Evolve with Vella on all platforms except for Twitter. I don't have a Twitter. And yeah, right now, like I mentioned before, I have a group called Mamas Who Breathe. We meet once a month, and all you have to do is just sign up for my email address. It's completely, my mailing address, my email address.
I know
It's
what you mean.
free. Anyway, Mama to Breathe is completely free. We meet once a month. And like I said, we just check in. I also have a group that's housed right now on Facebook. My team and I call Shake and Move Wellness Group. If you're familiar with me, you know that we used to do water challenges and all that kind of stuff. All of that housed over in a group where we just can really support each other with like-mindeds and just keep that accountability going. So yeah.
That you said the major word right there, and I know because I wanted you to go ahead and talk about what you do, but the word is accountability.
Yeah.
And I had a meeting earlier today with someone who he completed his doctorate, and we talk about a lot of different things. And he was like, Kevin, and I was out of town when he texted me, but we spoke today in person about being accountability for each other, because when you have a connection with somebody and your spirit aligns with them, and there's some great discernment about who they are, and we need that. And then that's how we grow as individuals. If we don't have nobody holding us accountable for the things that we said that we were going to do, or
And
for the things that we're looking to manifest in our lives, then what are we really doing? And I think having an accountability partner is so important, so important.
on every level, right? I love how you put it. It's so important. And just to add on to that, I think accountability ability is also beautiful when you can see the other person is not perfect and see that they're showing up, even though if they haven't done everything we were
Yeah,
talking about, they're still showing up, and then they're gonna allow for the next time you meet to have something to bring onto the table. And so yeah, it's
yeah,
important.
yeah. No, it really is. And it was one thing that I was talking with my friend. His name is Dr. Richard Lewis. We were having a conversation. He was talking about that. It was a phrase, and I don't want to butcher the phrase, but it was talking about you learn more from your mistakes than you learn from the degrees that you've accomplished. And I
Mhm.
was like, wow, that's so profound. He gonna get mad at me because he was like, why did you say that on there live? But that is so important. Like, you know, you go to school, you learn all this stuff, but you really learn from the mistakes that you like, the things that you've done in life to help you grow and put you in a different, like in a different space. Like that's the only way. That's the best teacher. Learning
Yeah.
from your mistakes and then
No,
hearing somebody else's story and being vulnerable and saying, "Hey, I'm not perfect.
yeah.
I screwed up.
Hmm.
Now I need to know what the next. How can I do better? You
Yeah.
know?
And when you screw up, you learn what you did wrong in order to try again to do it better. And you're like, okay, let me try different. I did that way last time. We call it failing forward. I know that's a coin thing. I didn't make that up. The person that I say that with, we didn't make it up. But when you fail, you actually get the life experience to do it again and to do it
Mm-hmm.
again. So I agree. I think that's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. Man, you gave us so much gems tonight. I mean, I'm telling people, if you're listening to this podcast and you need to go and follow her, I'm gonna make sure when I repost this video, you go and follow her on her IG. And if you have any questions, I think this was just a great podcast. Like I'm really excited about the information that you shared tonight.
Thank you. And again, thank you for the work that you're doing and you're putting out into the community. It is so important. I appreciate it. We appreciate it. We've been talking about you. We really do appreciate it. And it's so needed. So just so many thank yous.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure having you on here. Episode 13, Life After Sports podcast with Vella Ellerbe. And I
Yeah,
appreciate her taking her time to be on here tonight.
absolutely. Thank you so much, bro. Peace and purpose, y'all.
Peace,
Later.
purpose. Thank you. You have a great day, okay?
Good night.
Good night.